very early in the morning here in northern France. Just boarded the ferry, Brittany Ferries, on the way to Ireland. And the reason what I'm going to do today is a short video, a few minutes of a little video diary about travelling with Bonnie from Ireland to France and how it goes for us. So we're just actually after getting off the car, parking the car in the garage, taking Bonnie out of the boot of the car, passing through customs and all the rest of it. So I didn't have the camera in my hand videoing the customs officials naturally or anyone like that. And we just literally have taken Bonnie out of the boot of the car here now. Yeah, so we've been told to go up to deck 9. Up the stairs all the way to deck 9. So that's what we're going to do now. Up to deck 9, and we're going to go into our pet-friendly cabin and get Bonnie settled for the duration of the journey. So here we are inside pet-friendly cabin on the Brittany Ferries. This is the upstairs dog area here on the 9th deck. It's an area where people are allowed to have the dogs out in the fresh air. Right at the top of the boat, Brittany ferry boat here. I'm in Roscoff, about to leave to return home from a holiday, sailing back into Cork Harbour and then onwards obviously home to Kildare. So you can see lots of families with dogs, lots of them around. That's Bonnie, that's our dog, and other ladies, other people there exercising their dogs. Dogs have a nice exercise area here, sizable area. It's actually quite a nice facility. There are a few interesting points I want to make to you about sailing with your dog, travelling with your dog. First of all, it just isn't that simple, it isn't that straightforward, okay? It's not an easy process. So we had a long drive with Bonnie in the boot of the car from our holiday destination to get to the boat area, get to the ferry port, and we had to bring our own food, bring our own water, and stop for frequent breaks. So 7-hour drive kind of thing turned into 10-hour drive with the dogs, breaks included and that kind of thing, you know. So that's the first part. It's not simple. The second part is not simple. Is the dog's passport has to be correct, has to be up to date. They're very strict. They checked it carefully. They checked the rabies vaccination. They checked that she had a tapeworm tablet given, and that was inserted on the passport. And then they checked the microchip of the dog. So it's worthwhile yourselves, folks, making sure that your dog's microchip is up to date, that it actually scans, because sometimes these chips after a couple of years they don't scan, and then you'd be in trouble, you'd be panicking. So they're very strict about the identity of the dog, the paperwork of the dog, not to mention the paperwork of the humans. And then issue we had was that because of heavy winds, they changed the boat. They changed the boat from the Pontavon boat, to a smaller boat, and on the smaller boat there weren't as many dog kennels. So the fact that we had booked a dog kennel for Bonnie, they downgraded us initially from dog kennel for Bonnie to have to stay in the car, which would be very cruel, wouldn't be very good on an animal welfare level of any sort for a Labrador, Golden Retriever, big dogs, lots of big dogs here. Our Golden Retriever to stay in the car for what is that 10, almost 12-hour sailing, right? So we had to upgrade to a pet-friendly cabin. So that's advice I'd give to anybody. If you're sailing with your dog, make sure you buy a pet-friendly cabin from the word go, because if you don't, and if you're relying on the kennel area, your dog could easily you'd be unceremoniously told, sorry, she has to stay in the boot of the car, because some of these boats have kennels and some of them don't. And this one, as we discovered, doesn't have kennels, but it does have, as I previously showed you, it does have quite nice pet-friendly cabins, but they're not cheap, and you do have to book them well in advance, because there are only a few of them, and they're all on deck 9 together. And I actually witnessed a couple trying to sneak a big lurcher dog onto the escalator from the garage area to go up into their cabin, and they were stopped and they were told, oh no, your cabin is on deck 8 and there are no dogs on deck 8, and sorry madame, you have to return to your vehicle. So there's a dog who was probably going to have to stay in the boot of the car for a 12-hour sailing, because unfortunately those owners didn't have a pet-friendly cabin previously booked. So that'd be big advice I would give you. But anyway, it's a beautiful morning for sailing, and it can be quite rewarding and enjoyable travelling with your pet. Not simple. And there's some other people exercising their dogs. Bonnie's here on the boat having a nice experience. So it's a lovely journey for the owner, a lovely journey for the dog, because of course we have the peace of mind of knowing that we were able to go on holidays, and we didn't have to leave our lovely dog behind us. We're about halfway across the crossing here now, and Bonnie's out at the pet promenade area getting some exercise after being a few hours asleep on her bed in the cabin. We had to rest ourselves in the cabin for a few hours, having had a very early start. It's about lunchtime now, and as I say, we're nearly maybe about halfway across our crossing. A couple of other pointers for people who want to travel, particularly sailing with the dog like this. First of all, this pet promenade area, not very big. It's the only exercise she's going to get for the 10-hour crossing to Ireland and France. It's a bit of a run out intermittently in this area. So there are a few important things if you're going to sail with your pet, remembering this. Firstly, you do need to be well toilet trained, and you're going to have to carry your bags with you, clean up after her, because there's literally nowhere for her to do her business except this promenade area on the deck, right? The second thing is, your dog needs to be well trained and have good recall, because it's not actually properly fenced off. There's a staircase there all the way down to the lifeboats. She could take a run down too. There's the lifeboats there as we're moving along. A few other dogs now coming out for their exercise, which is lovely to see. Second thing to point out is dogs have to be muzzled on the ship here, and they're very strict about that. Now on the promenade area, people are taking the muzzles off for the dogs to play, but dogs do need to be muzzle trained, because the staff on the ship will insist that the dog can't get out of the car without a muzzle on. And last thing to say to you, sadly I actually bumped into the family on my way back out here. They were on the way down to the garage to go down and exercise their own two dogs, which they were forced to leave in the car because there weren't enough of these pet-friendly cabins where they were going to be allowed to have their dogs in the cabins beside them, as it were. So their dogs were forced to stay in the car. So with that in mind, you do need to have your dog crate trained. So your dog's going to be calm and settled and understand that she needs to go to sleep for a few hours while she's on a crossing like that. So crate training, so that she's settled for a few hours at a time. Folks, 2 o'clock in the afternoon here as Bonnie and I continue on our journey across the Celtic Sea from Brittany back to Cork Harbour. Interesting there just to point out, that's the coast of Cornwall. And we passed a lighthouse called Wolf Rock Lighthouse, and that is Land's End, the very bottom part of the south of England, just there. As we sail by, we sail along, and walking along the deck, the boat here, there are islands over there, just inside, which are the Scilly Islands. And it's a very windy afternoon, clear, and ideal conditions for the dogs to exercise on deck. So it's about 7 p.m. here on the Armorique, crossing the Irish Sea. A couple of hours to go to get into Cork, the Irish coastline. Probably southern Waterford, just coming into view over there on the horizon. Bonnie's out again with ourselves, out for a little walk, and a couple of little final tips as we near the final part of the journey. Things to say. Firstly, interestingly, not a major concern, but a little bit of a worry for me. Bonnie hasn't passed a number 2 all day, which would be highly unlike her, and she's eaten a little but not much. So again, probably indicators that she's been a little bit sick, a little bit seasick perhaps. Even though she's in good form, she has been a little bit seasick herself. So what I'm going to do is give her a tube of NutraBio, which is a probiotic paste. And that'll help to settle her tummy and help to stave off an infection they can get called shipping fever, which is just a stress response really, which we worry about a little, you know, with any dogs that are travelling. So shipping fever can be a concern, and I'm going to give Bonnie a tube of NutraBio, which is a probiotic. So if you're in that position, your dog hasn't eaten, as Bonnie hasn't, maybe all day on deck, her vital signs are fine, so I'm not concerned. And in addition to the NutraBio, one thing we have been doing is bringing her out on deck for regular walks, making sure she's drinking plenty of water, and she has been drinking plenty of water and doing plenty of passing lots of urine. And as you can see, the only place the dogs have to go is out here. Like a lot of dogs, she will pass urine on a concrete surface, but she won't pass her number 2s on concrete. As I say, unfortunately there's no grass area here to assist with that. So we'll see how we get on. later in the voyage as we near the end of the journey. Little anecdote, a sailor passed on to me there. We noticed young dolphins swimming alongside the ferry earlier this afternoon, and the reason why I was told is that dolphins love the big waves that the ferry boats churn up, and they love to catch the waves and play, jump on the waves and swim alongside the ferry boats. So that's been nice to watch intermittently through the afternoon. So 7:30 p.m. here, just continuing our little video log. I just want to chat to you about feeding time. The first thing, as you can see again, as I mentioned earlier, these pet-friendly cabins are really tight. So one piece of advice I'd give when you're travelling with your dog, do get out on deck for lots of walks. Lots of walks helps to stave the tummy sickness. So it will be very important to make sure that your lead training and muzzle training is very good. And secondly, just to talk about feeding time here, Bonnie has not done a number 2 all day, which I'm a little bit concerned about so far. So she's just been feeding a small meal. As you can see, she is eating first. So what I'm going to do to help her tummy is I'm going to give her a tube of a probiotic called NutriBio in a little while. That will help to settle her tummy. And another tip to give travellers, people travelling with their dogs, I'm feeding Bonnie Gym Dog Goodness grains. That's a single source diet, ideal for travel stress. Now when I say a single source recipe, what that means is there's one source of carbohydrate and one source of protein only in the diet, and it's low protein, hence easy to digest and good for sensitive tummies. So that would be an ideal travel diet, the Gym Dog Goodness grains. And the other tip then is to give the probiotic at some stage this evening after she's had her small meal. As you can see, Bonnie's handling the travelling, I think, really well, all in all. So just on the last section of our journey here, we've landed in Cork. The front of the ship is open and we're waiting to drive out. And here's Bonnie waiting to go home to Kildare. So we've had a lovely journey. And just to conclude the story of our voyage from France to Ireland, what we've learned over the last couple of days of travelling is that you've got to prepare well in advance and plan very well. The take-home message would be, folks, do book a pet-friendly cabin on these ships if you are sailing. As we're standing here waiting to drive out, there are several dogs barking in cars around me. Little dog there in a car and so on. Good few cars with little dogs in them. Cars that obviously people didn't have a cabin booked, and the dogs have had to spend over 12 hours in the vehicle. And it's been a long sailing from France to Cork. The bonus is we're here an hour early, and we'll be home in County Kildare, and Bonnie and the rest of us will be back in bed before midnight.